So just finding our way onto our back, make sure we have two blankets or towels handy. And then just settling in a way where your spine can be received by the mat. Maybe letting your eyes close here, starting to round off or smooth out the corners of your breath. And so there's this engineer, this beloved engineer who's been tasked with designing a very important bridge. Think about how slowing down your breath allows more access to the musculature, and how by creating more space through that access, the structure of the body can be more at ease. So this engineer goes about designing this bridge. With every possible detail thought out. Bring our knees into a bent position if they're not already there. Let the kneecaps point towards the ceiling. And then splay the toes out as wide as you can get them and activate down into the feet in a way where you lighten the sensation of the sacrum, but you don't lift the sacrum off the mat. So just enough pressure down that there's a lightness through kind of from the thoracic spine down. And then think about pushing into the toe mounds like you're trying to push the torso up towards the top of your mat. So there's a lightness in the sacrum, almost like the sacrum can float, but still touching the mat. And we're just trying to energize up towards that shoulder girdle. And then with an exhale, slowly release the tailbone so that the pressure comes back in. But think about softening the tailbone down. See if we can just get some subtle length through the lumbar spine. And then let's inhale our arms straight up towards the ceiling, palms facing towards one another. And think about that shoulder girdle kind of relaxing back in if we got a little bunched up in that pressure shift. And with an exhale, let the thumbs come down towards the space behind you. Pinkies up towards the ceiling, fingers splayed out wide. Inhale back up towards the ceiling or sky. Exhale, thumbs down. Inhale back up. Think about now as you exhale back down, you continue this cycle of movement and breath. Think about smoothing out both the movement and the breath so that it is fluid and easy. The shoulder mobility tends to have some hiccups or hitches in it for most of us. And so can we relax the musculature enough that we can kind of take out that hitchy movement and just find some fluidity? The next time that the hands come back up towards the ceiling, Let that movement continue so that the hands can fall down by our sides, palms up. And once again, consciously think about relaxing the shoulder girdle so that you get this broadening. And we'll push down into the toe mounds and heels and just lift our belt line up into a little bridge. And then release the tailbone back down. Think about tailbone coming down towards the heels and relax and ease. Let your eyes close and just find your way back into that easy breath. Really thinking about our opportunity to just settle into that neutrality. Neutrality being our goal with the spine. And then let's let the knees fall to one side or the other, whatever side feels most appropriate for you, best for you. And we'll press ourselves up into a staff position. Extending the legs and then really getting that spinal verticality. Let's grab our blankets here and we'll take the first blanket and roll that blanket or towel. And we're going to start out with that underneath the knee crease. So there's a little encouraged bend. If that doesn't feel like it's enough, then use the second blanket as well. Especially if you have like a thin towel, you may want to go both here. Just looking for a little knee bend so that we have a little bit more comfort in our ability to forward fold. So vertical spine, and we'll release ourselves into that fold space. We started practice with a structural lengthening, right? We worked on finding space between the vertebrae. And now here we're necessitating more of this posterior chain space. So if it's not there, more knee bend, more slack, more expansion. Try to get to the point where you are relaxed in this forward fold. And I know depending on how much rigidity we have in the posterior chain, that can feel like a pipe dream. And so if you're forward folding here and you're feeling like I'm not relaxed, I'm not going to be relaxed, there's not a point where I could possibly imagine being relaxed, and then ease more. Maybe we come here and we just get to here. Or maybe we're even more vertical. We still have forward fold angle in the spine. We're just trying to get depth to the point where we can still be at ease this morning. And we'll give ourselves 60 more seconds here. Remember that slowing down our breath actively relaxes our musculature, actively relaxes our nervous system, which actively relaxes the musculature. Last big full inhale breath. And with the exhale breath, can you see if there's any last available space for expansion? And then eventually we'll bring ourselves up into a nice vertical alignment. Reset the spine. So we want to feel balanced on our sacrum. And then let's take our blanket or towel or stack of blankets and towels, and we'll just put it on a singular leg here. So the right leg is released all the way to the mat. I did that. So it's very hard to see. You'll have to trust me. The right leg is flat. The left leg is bent. And we're going to take ourselves into that same forward fold. And then if we have the ability to relax here, and that was an if, so making sure that we first answer, yes, I do have the ability to relax. If we can answer that way, we take our right hand over to our lateral edge of the left foot, that pinky toe edge. And then we'll release the forehead down towards the left leg, shin, thigh, wherever we are. All of this to be said, this will give us a better. We can do this right here, right? So if we don't feel like we have that extension capacity in the posterior chain, we bend that left knee, and then we can take ourselves over to that twist, and we can still find our way into expansion. Really thinking about our ability to relax and expand simultaneously this morning. Let's give ourselves 30 more seconds here. And when it feels appropriate for you, bringing ourselves back up to vertical, thinking again about resetting that sacral balance and then shifting the position of our prop so that it is a unilateral impact. Left leg now free, right knee has the bend. We see if we have the ability to go forward. If we do, we take that left hand over to the lateral edge of the right leg and we release ourselves down. If that's not working, if we're not feeling relaxation, we bend the knee more and more and more until we feel like we are there. And so as this engineer is working on this bridge, the ideas are really stacking on top of one another in a way that is creating something that is going to be structurally perfect. And when he finally completes the blueprints for this project, presents them to the ruler, everyone is pretty amazed at what this project is going to look like. But the engineer says to the ruler, I have one more idea. And the two of them kind of speak in hushed tones as this idea is shared between them. When you feel right, we'll walk ourselves back up towards vertical. Release that blanket. And let's pull both knees as close as we can to the torso here and see if it's possible for you to hug underneath the hamstrings and give yourself a nice little squeeze there and then tuck the chin, make yourself into a small ball as possible. Like you're trying to compact yourself and round that thoracic spine here. Relatively neutral lumbar, and then that nice rounded thoracic spine. Think about sending your breath to the center of that arch, apex of that arch in the thoracic spine, and really get that expansion. Feel that musculature get pulled and stretched through your capacity to breathe. One more big, full inhale breath. Deep pull, exhale breath. And transition your hands to your toe mounds here. Toe mounds aren't accessible to ankles. We are going to slowly walk our feet forward for the final seated forward fold of this morning's practice. So, thinking again about our ability to relax into this space. Thinking about how that thoracic spine musculature that we breathed space into is responding to this ask for one final forward fold. And let's give ourselves 60 more seconds here. When it feels appropriate, big full inhale breath. Last deep releasing exhale breath, finding any last available space here. We'll walk ourselves back up towards seat. Let's take our props here and return to shelf fold for both of them. And from shelf fold, we're going to go hot dog, hot dog. So we end up with two of these, one coming right behind the spine, the other providing support for the head if your torso is long enough to need that. And we'll lower ourselves down here. Sacrum is grounded and anchored. Ideally, the palms are up. You get that external shoulder rotation. Potentially, you're feeling the kind of reverberations of all of the work we've done on that subscapular musculature. As the musculature comes back now into this supported neutral, we do have the lower back bend going on, but it's relatively gentle. Supported neutral thoracic spine for sure. You may just feel that musculature kind of fighting against where we are right now. If you can use your breath to counteract any fight that the musculature is putting up. And so the construction of this bridge starts. And through meticulous planning, it goes perfectly. More perfectly than a construction project ever should. And as the bridge is being built up, people are amazed. It's almost as if the construction defies gravity. Eventually, the final stone is put in place. And the ruler is brought out to observe his new prized route. The people of the land gather around and stare in wonder at this architectural marvel. And to prove its worth, heavier and heavier loads are carried across, pulled by bigger and bigger elephants. And the bridge withstands each test as if it wasn't a test at all. And as each larger and larger cargo capacity crosses this bridge, the populace cheers. Huge wagon loads of gold bars travel across the bridge. The wagon wheels themselves buckling under the pressure. The bridge doesn't respond. It's as if no weight could topple the architecture here. Recheck in with the duration of your breath, with the length of your respiration. Are there subtle tweaks? Are there tiny adjustments that you could offer? That would allow your body to be more at ease, that allow the shoulder girdle to be more expansive. Think about how the humeral heads are responding in the shoulder socket themselves. And there'll be more ease at the shoulder socket, at the musculature supporting and stabilizing the shoulder joint. Once the last of the wagon loads of gold bars crosses the bridge, the architect turns to the ruler and says, "And now, our final feature." And the architect points to this thief pulling up the burlap, covering up a pile of gold bars, and slipping one bar into his pocket. Before slinking away towards the bridge to cross to the other side. The moment this thief steps on the bridge begins to vibrate violently, to shake. And it shakes until this thief is thrown from the bridge into the river below. The architect turns to the ruler and says, "Just as I promised, this will not just be the strongest bridge that has ever existed. It will judge worthiness of those who cross it." And the ruler slaps him on the back and says, "Marvelous. What a beyond comprehensible invention you have here." The two of them turn and follow the wagon loads of gold bars back to the kingdom and castle. We'll give ourselves about 30 more seconds here. When it feels appropriate for you, we can bring our knees into a bent position and let your body just roll off the blanket beneath you. We'll pull that out, keep it in its current state, and take the blanket from underneath our head. And we'll place both of those kind of next to our knees, thighs. And with an exhale, let's let both knees fall open, bottoms of the feet come together. If the blankets aren't providing you enough support, you can tuck them a little bit closer to the hips. You can also fold them in half. We do want to have some support here. ourselves about 60 more seconds here. It feels appropriate for you. Let's bring our knees to neutral. We'll take out one of those blankets and place it between the knees and heel toe the feet out to the width of the mat, letting the knees fall in to pinch onto that blanket space. Here, a completely optional experience. The knee in position really does a great job of neutralizing the lumbar thoracic spine. It's neutral because it's sitting against the mat. Gives us an opportunity to work on the cervical spine. If you want to, completely optional, you take the hands to the edges of the head, give a little squeeze there, and see if you can pull the head just a little bit further away from the shoulders, get some length between the actual vertebrae of the cervical spine before relaxing. And then just finding your way into that ease. Checking back in with the duration of your breath, with the softness across that anterior shoulder girdle, with the distance between the chin and the sternum. How your breath is working to soften the shape that you're in. We'll give ourselves 60 more seconds here. And so once the bridge was set, it functioned and it operated as it was built to do. traders with their gold coins and gold bars freely crossed. Noblemen and intellectuals freely crossed. Any time that a criminal, thief, a con artist stepped foot on the bridge, it rumbled and it shook violently and threw them into the river below. And it feels appropriate for you, we'll heel toe our feet back in line with our knees. So a little bit closer than they might normally be, maybe a fist distance between them. And we'll let both knees fall to the left with the blanket still in between them. And we'll land in this static twist and think about how the rotation is impacting that right side musculature, anterior and posterior, and how we can utilize our breath to bring more ease into the twist. When it feels appropriate, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. Take that blanket out from between the knees and place it back on its side. Let the bottoms of the feet come together and the knees fall out wide. And now we may have some right to left asymmetry here, right? We are single side twisted. Think about how you can adjust the pelvic bowl to find neutrality once again. As time passed. Bridge began to shift. Begin to move its judgments around worthiness. What was once criminals, thieves, con artists. Became those unable to pay for themselves, the beggars, the unwashed. When they stepped foot on the bridge, it shook violently and threw them into the river below. As you're potentially experiencing asymmetry in the way your body is settled here, think about using the exhale portion of your respiration as a tool to bring more ease into the body, to regulate the nervous system, stabilize the structure. We'll give ourselves about 60 more seconds here. That feels appropriate. We'll bring our knees back to neutral. Pick the blanket out from the left side and place that between the knees. And heel toe the feet out to the width of the mat, letting the knees fall in towards one another. You land here with that encouraged neutrality of the lumbar and that neutral resting position against the mat of the thoracic. The opportunity once again presents itself to encourage, manually add space between the vertebrae of the cervical spine. It's something you want to do. We place the hands on the edges of the head and just squeeze and pull up towards the space behind us. Once you get that maximum length, you release the head down and let it settle into that space. Fully at ease here. Last 40 seconds here. It feels appropriate to you. We'll heel toe the feet back in line with the knees. Again, a little bit closer than they'd normally be, maybe a fist distance, and then we'll let the knees fall to the second side, the right side. As time went on, the bridge became more and more selective, what it deemed worthy. Again, shaking off those that were viewed as not advantageous, not productive enough, throwing them into the river below. There was also something going unnoticed in the bridge's structure. As each time it vibrated, each time it shook, it had been weakening itself. The stones that were so perfectly fit together moved ever so slightly out of place. Breath here, big full inhale. A steep exhale. Bring our knees back to neutral. Remove that blanket from between the knees. Let your body just relax into your breath. Ask yourself if there's anything that you can offer here that might be advantageous prior to Shavasana. If there is, let's give that to ourselves now. And if you have everything that you need, if you have everything that you want, let's settle into a shape where we can appreciate some stillness. The bridge had grown weaker and weaker with each shake. Until one day, a single nobleman stepped onto the bridge. And the weight of his presence caused a complete collapse. With that collapse, the greatest bridge ever built was gone, swallowed by the very chasm it was meant to conquer. And for a long time after that, the people on the near side of the ravine mourned. Their passage lost, gone, hopes of crossing it evaporated in a single step. But on the other side, something remarkable was happening. The ones who had been deemed unworthy, the poor, the widows, the wanderers, the unwashed, they never stopped looking for a way forward. And they had built boats, carved steps into the ravine walls. Some had even built their own bridges, bridges where everyone was welcomed. And so while the privileged stood staring at the ruins of their once mighty passage, trapped forever, the rest of the world had already moved on. We'll start to bring some movement to our fingers and our toes. Into our wrists and our ankles, elbows, knees, shoulders, hips, head, neck, jaw, eyes, tongue. Eventually, our entire body can move, can explore the space around us, and we can utilize that movement to return ourselves into a seat. And the seated space, spine gets tall, breath gets fluid, eyes closed. And with our next inhale, we'll bring our hands together, heart center. And for the course of the next 7 days, can you remind yourself that bridges built for only a few will one day stand for no one? See how that impacts your experience. Thank you so much for being a part of this morning's practice and for being you. Namaste. Happy Sunday, everybody. Appreciate the heck out of you being here. I hope you have a beautiful week. I love the heck out of you. I'll be back tomorrow if you want to move, and we'll do this again next Sunday as well. Love you. Hang in there. Mwah.